PS5, Xbox Series X. Here's what we know about next-gen hardware so far. The future of next-gen gaming is right around the corner, and I want to take a look at what we know so far about the Xbox Series X and the PS5. Haven't got a ton of details yet, but we do have some. We're going to flip through some articles. I will say I have no loyalty to either system. I've owned all the major systems throughout the years. Right now, I favor the PlayStation 4, but last generation, I favored the 360. And I gotta say, Microsoft has been improving this generation very much so, mainly through Game Pass, which I absolutely adore. And also the fact that the Xbox One S, not even the X, but the S, actually plays 4K discs. The PS4 Pro, contrary to popular belief, does not. You can stream 4K, can't play 4K discs. So I still prefer PlayStation 5, but I did like the 360 more. So I'm up for grabs this generation completely. I want to see what both are doing. So let's take a look at some of the specs that we know. Excuse me. So Xbox Series X on their own site says 12 teraflops of power. Sweet, sweet teraflops. True 4K and 8K. 8K, we're not there yet, obviously. We're barely at 4K, and especially when it comes to gaming. But it seems like Microsoft is positioning themselves to be almost like an Apple product where it's constant improvement through the generation. It may be not so much, here's a new system 7 years later, such and such. This may be almost like a upgradable PC situation. So I know a lot of people are against the 8K thing. I think they're looking toward the future. I'm not totally against it. It says up to 120 frames per second. That would be nice. How about we get to 60 first? Because we still have a lot of games barely getting that 30 on the console. And then it has a 1 terabyte custom SSD. The SSD does seem exciting. We're heading more towards PC as we go with our console gaming market. The controller is very similar to the Xbox controller, but makes sense because the Xbox controller personally has been my favorite for a long time. I prefer them over PlayStation. I like the analogs, how they're not parallel. I like the heavier, the thicker controller. Even with small hands, I have kind of small hands, and but I still prefer that. So let's take a look here. Series X. Well, we have the PS5 details. Everything we know 4 hours ago from GameSpot. There is talk about launch shortages. Now, both consoles are saying holiday 2020. They're not giving a specific date. And honestly, we might see a delay because of the pandemic going on. You know, you have to get the processors. You have to get all the parts to make the system. And it might be a problem getting all those parts. So either what I see happening is they launch holiday 2020, either system or both, but the prices are higher than they normally would be because of lack of chips and all that, or they delay it, or they just don't have as many systems to go around. I'm not sure what they're going to take with that. So let's see what we got here. We got the PlayStation 5. We do have the controller. The controller, I'm not so sure about it. Let's mute this, shall we? Let's mute that. I don't know how I feel about the controller. Built-in mic, haptic feedback, adaptive trigger, light bar placement. I don't know the point of the light bar. Create button. Not sure what that's about. It is interesting. It's almost looking more like an Xbox controller. They still have the parallel analog sticks. I don't know how much I like the color, the white and black together like that. Let's see. Slightly thicker form factor. Yep, that seems for sure. Don't have the exact measurements. Haptic feedback, adaptive triggers. USB-C port for its power cable. Okay. Bad news for your dusty old micro USB cords. Create button. The share button has been replaced with a new create button. Declined the functionality difference. Blah, blah, blah. Marketing speak. Okay. So we don't know what the create button will do. We don't know the prices of any of this, by the way. There's been speculation that we may be looking at prices going in the $550 range because of the shortages. That might be a problem. I think if you exceed 500, even hitting 500, you know, that's going to be a little rough. That's going to be a little rough. Well, let's see here. Let's go back to Series X. Let's see if we know any more information about that. Yeah, faster. That's a big thing they're talking about too. Faster load times. That has been a big push, really, on both sides. I think particularly with the Xbox Series X. That's a cool push. I understand that. I like it. But I think they should focus more on the frames per second. They are talking about that. But I would love to see locked in at least 60 frames per second. And then we could talk about 120. But if we can lock in 60, and I'm not even somebody who cares too much about frames per second necessarily, but at this point in time, we really need to see that, especially if you're talking prices of, you know, upwards of close to $600. You know, you're starting to get into PC prices here a little bit. Tom's Guide said PS5 will be crushed by Xbox Series X power. Well, we don't really know that yet. There is backwards compatibility, more of that. I really love that. I love that Microsoft is pushing backwards compatibility. How much other people will like that and use that, I'm not sure, but I think it's high time we get back to backwards compatibility. We got away from that for a while, and I understand why. It's going to raise the cost of the system. But I think that's something really important to have, especially if we're going to have a generation where it's more incremental boosts, where instead of having, like I said, new system every 7 years, you have upgrades, little more incremental upgrades. Forbes here. Forbes says, surprise Xbox Series X feature will make old games look brand new. That's a bold claim. Look brand new. Now, you can say look better. I can understand that. But you're saying look brand new. HDR upgrades for... Ooh. HDR upgrades for old Xbox games. Wow, if you can get HDR in old Xbox games, that's interesting. There's no need for any software level input from the game developers or the conversion team. Interesting. So is it automatic? Another thing I heard too is that it's going to automatically recognize. So the backwards compatibility, it'll recognize and then up-res automatically. That's really cool. So there's no need for software. This means that the enhancements will be available from day one for essentially any title can run. Backwards compatibility will support all Xbox One titles, but as well as 360 and original Xbox titles that have been delivered so far through the backward compatibility project. Now that's cool. If we can get 360 and original Xbox. According to the demonstrations given to Eurogamer, the resolution upgrades were apparently convincingly handling full resolution doubling, upping 1080p titles to native 4K via an upgraded version of the system that's used for turning 720p back catalogs into 4K. That's cool. That is cool. Gaming AV fans will be a prospect. Okay. Yep, high dynamic range, HDR, that really... Exactly. This says high dynamic range that really makes the Xbox Series X backwards compatibility efforts exciting. I agree. HDR, it really does improve the image. Decent amount of... Yep, wider light range. Yep, we know that. The only concern is that experience suggests how hard it is to get SDR to HDR conversion right. That's my concern. That's why I'm so surprised we're talking about HDR, no problem, native. I'd argue that the only TV brand is... Oh, that's funny. What we're talking about. I'd argue the only TV brand that's done a convincing SDR to HDR conversion is Sony. Okay, so Sony TVs. But we don't know yet. It's way too early to know that. According to Eurogamer's experience, though, the HDR conversion the Xbox Series X applies to games appears to be the real deal, applying genuine HDR light levels on a believably relative basis to different objects in every game frame. Not just general brightness, but dynamic range. Okay. The engine is creating... Okay. Yep. What's perhaps most exciting? Okay. Yeah, they're really going for it. Yep, their lack of true 4K resolutions. And I appreciate that. And again, that's one of the things I really like about Xbox and Microsoft. You have Game Pass, and again, really going more in on a 4K. Like I said, the Xbox One S is the cheapest system that will get you 4K disc playing. And that's really why I bought it. I braved the Black Friday crowds a couple years ago. Let's see what Phil Spencer has to say 13 hours ago. Won't be much of a wait, Phil Spencer says. Next step, okay. Yesterday, swirling around. Event in May, it's a possibility. They trademark a new logo, yep. Scheduled to release during holiday 2020, yep, we know that. We have an educated guest price based on those specs. Right. Yeah, so they're talking like 500 to 600 basically is the range for the Series X. Let's go over to the PS5. We don't have as many details on PlayStation 5. We know holiday 2020. First look, okay. Yeah, they're talking about the controller a lot. PS5 key facts. Only a few titles have been confirmed. Yep, Ghost of Tsushima. It will have, their virtual reality. They haven't been talking about virtual reality too much, which is interesting. And there are rumors of PSVR 2, which could be combined with the PS5. That's something I really want to get into, is VR. I've messed around with it a little bit. It's really exciting technology. I really enjoyed it. Okay, yeah, the PS4 and the PS4 Pro were both $399 at launch. I do not see $400 on either of these systems, especially with this pandemic. If this pandemic wasn't happening, it's a possibility. Can I play PS4 games on the PS5? Definitely be backwards compatible with almost all PS4 games. But they're not talking about PS3 or PS2, whereas Microsoft's talking about going way back to the beginning. They're still saying holiday 2020. It's not going to be delayed. We'll see about that. Okay, so that's just a little look at that. That's good for now. My thoughts on it. Where do I lean? Honestly, it's tough. If I had to make a choice right now, I would if I had to make a choice, I would pick up the PS5. Only because PS4 clearly, I think, was the victor this generation. But again, Microsoft has been making inroads. They've bought a lot of studios, by the way. I forget the number, but it is a ridiculous number of studios they bought. The Outer Worlds team, they got them. They got the Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice team there. They got Tim Schafer and his crew, Double Fine. They got a lot of people in there. And like I said, Game Pass. Game Pass alone, for me, is making Microsoft competitive. The fundamental problem I have with them is their first-party titles I'm not particularly huge on. I never really liked Gears that much. Halo's fun. I like Halo. Forza's fun. But there aren't any, God of Wars. And, Sony's got Insomniac now, so Spider-Man was a heck of a game. Insomniac's a great studio. So Sony has the better first-party titles. But again, with Game Pass and this backwards compatibility going all in and the 4K HDR upresing, that's pretty exciting stuff. We're going to have to wait and see, guys. I'm excited. I can't wait. When we get more details, I will put up another video when we get more solid, concrete details, because this is all we have right now. This is the best we got. But I want to thank you guys for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think. Which side are you on right now? Because I can go either way. But I want to hear from you. And thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. Make sure to sub and maybe consider supporting me on Patreon. And I will catch you on the next one. Bye, everybody. Bye.